Okay, this lesson is on Arithmetic Series. Arithmetic Series is your title that you'll have up here. It basically means the sum of the terms in an arithmetic sequence, which we've already talked about. There is a cool formula that helps us do this quickly, and it uses a large S that stands for sum of n, which is how many terms you have, equals n parentheses a1 plus an over 2. So the a1 is your first term, an is your last term, and n is the number of terms. So those all mean the same thing that they have in previous lessons. We're just using the same notation. So it says find the sum of the first 10 terms of the sequence if a1 is 16, so that's the first term's negative 16, and the 10th term is 20. So that's really all the information that we need. We know that there are 10 terms, so we're doing the sum of the first 10 terms of the sequence. And then you put in for n, you'd put in 10 because there's 10 terms. First term plus last term, so negative 16 plus 20, and then divide it all by 2. So we do the parentheses first. Negative 16 plus 20 is 4. So I'm going to have 10 times 4 divided by 2, just 40 divided by 2, which is 20. So they're not actually giving us the whole sequence. We know it starts with negative 16, it ends with 20, and we know how many terms, and that's all we need to put it into the formula. When we get towards the bottom, it'll look a little bit more like actual sequences. Okay, so let's do another one of those where they give us lots of the information. So it says, find the sum of the first 42 terms of the sequence if a1 equals 7 and a42, which is the last term of the 42 terms, is 239. So I'm really glad they didn't give us all 42 terms and expect us to add them up. We just have information we can use to find the sum of all the terms. So the sum of the 42 terms is 42. That's how many terms we have. The first term is 7. The last term, or the 42nd term, is 239. And then you always divide by 2. So if we do what's in the parentheses, we get 246. If you're going to take that times 42 and divide by 2, I recommend using a calculator to do that, unless you just have a lot of time on your hands and you feel like multiplying and dividing that out. The final answer is 5,166. Okay, so those are straightforward. They gave us all the information that we needed. Now it's going to be a little bit more interesting. So it says on the next one, find the sum of the first 100 terms of the sequence if a1 is 5, so it's the first term is 5, and the difference is 3. So when we do our formula for this, we know there's 100 terms. We know the first term is 5, but we don't know what the 100th term is, divided by 2. So over here, we need to figure out what the 100th term is, which would be the last term in that sequence. And so we can do that using our formula for arithmetic sequences. And that formula was an equals a1 plus n, plus d times n minus 1. And so we're not going to get really fancy with this. To find the 100th term, we're just going to take the first term, which we know is 5. I cannot write today. Sorry, guys. Hang on. Plus the difference, which we know is 3. So we'd be adding 3, add 3, add 3. And we know we want to do 100 terms, so 100 goes in here. 100 minus 1 is 99. So really we're just going to do 5 plus 3 times 99. And that will give us the 100th term that goes into that blank. So if you put that in the calculator, you get 302. So that's what's going to go up here into your formula. So if you didn't use this formula that we did from a previous lesson, you would actually have to add 3 to 5 until you got to the 100th term, which would take a very long time. 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 plus 3 is 11. It would take you a very long time and you'd probably get lost in the middle. So that's what these formulas are good for. All right, so now that we know what that number is, we can go ahead and proceed. So 5 plus 302 is 307. And at that point, I'd probably just put it in my calculator. You actually could put this whole thing in your calculator and just use parentheses if you wanted. So 100 times 307 would be 30,700. Divide by 2, you get 15,350. So those 100 terms in that sequence, that's what their sum would be. So this is just a little shortcut that we have. Okay, so we're going to do one more problem like this, and then we're going to look at some that are not really harder, just set up differently. So in the next piece, it says find the sum of the first 24 terms of the sequence if the first term is -4 and the common difference is -6. So if I was going to do this the long way, I would take -4 and I would subtract 6, subtract 6, subtract 6, subtract 6, subtract 6 until I got to the 24th term, and then I would take all 24 terms and add them up. So yesterday I think I mentioned that there are some shortcuts for certain situations. This is one of those shortcuts. If we know that they're subtracting 6 every time is the pattern, we know what the starting term of the sequence is, we know there's 24 terms, we can just use some formulas to make this a whole lot faster. So if I want to do the sum of the first 24 terms, I have to put 24 in. The first term is -4, and then we need to know the 24th term. We don't. So in that blank, we would need to know what A24 is and then divide by 2. So we're going to use a formula that we had from previous lessons. When we have an arithmetic sequence, we would just use the formula AN equals A1 plus D n minus 1. So we're trying to find the 24th term. We know the first term is -4. We know the difference is -6. So you can put -6 instead of plus -6 if you want. And we know there's 24 terms. So 24 minus 1 is what goes in the parentheses. So I'm going to have -4 minus 6 times 23. And you can just put all that into your calculator, and you'll find out that the 24th term of the sequence is -142. So I'm going to put -142 up there. And if it bothers you that I put a blank